name is Adam Hamilton. I'm the senior pastor at the United Methodist Church of the Resurrection. I'm the host of this podcast, Making Sense of Faith. And our aim is to have interesting conversations with people and to delve into various topics related to faith and life. And today I am so excited to have as my guest Barnett Helzberg Jr. He is an institution here in Kansas City, a legend, one of the key pivotal leaders in the Kansas City area for decades. And he is he was the leader of Helzberg's Jewelers from 1963, 64, somewhere in there, until it was sold to Warren Buffett in 1994 or 95, and led the company from 15 really excellent jewelry stores to over 200 today. And is just a remarkable human being. And I'm so excited to have a chance to talk with him. And I've admired him for a long time. And I know you're going to be blessed by hearing our conversation together today. So welcome, Barnett. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Honored to be here.
Well, I'd like to just begin with your story. Where did you grow up?
Kansas City.
All right.
Always Kansas City.
Were your folks, did they, because the jewelry store started here in Kansas City in 1915,
in 1915, Kansas City, Kansas, my grandfather.
Wow. So your family's been in Kansas City for multiple generations then?
Yeah. Yes.
Where did you go to school in Kansas City?
Well, I went to Prairie School. I actually went to Sunset Hill. They had a preschool. I went to Pembroke Country Day, now called Pembroke Hill.
Yeah.
Then I went to University of Michigan.
Okay. You and I both went to Prairie Elementary School. I went to Prairie as well.
Oh, that was a fantastic school.
It was.
Marvelous.
Yep. Yeah. Well, tell us about your childhood growing up. How many siblings did you have? What was your life like as you were growing up?
Well, it was a lot of fun. First, we lived very, very near the Ward Parkway pond or whatever it was, and sailed boats on there and had a fun neighborhood. It was a lot of fun. And then we moved when I was about 7 or 8 out to Johnson County.
Yeah.
So
what year would that have been? When you're 91 now, is that right?
Yes, that's
okay.
True.
So when you were 7 or 8, you were talking about right after World War II, or around that time?
But during World War. Yeah, I remember where I was sitting when they announced Pearl Harbor.
Tell us about that. Where were you sitting, and
how
old were you?
Sitting in a breakfast room. And it's strange, sometimes memories come because of the place, and it doesn't matter. But I remember exactly where I was sitting and hearing about Pearl Harbor. Not really understanding, but I guess knowing it was a
major event. It was
yes.
So you were in elementary school during World War II. You moved to Johnson County, as many people were, and really a huge number of people moving right after the war into the neighborhoods around Prairie. Were you in Prairie Village, Mission Hills? Where were you?
We were in Mission Hills.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell us about, I'd like to go back to your grandfather who founded the business and your father. Like, tell us about the founding of Helzberg's.
I'm going to give you the whole story.
Okay.
Which part of my family was, my dad laughed because I think my uncle kind of wasn't very happy to talk about this. But as you know, they wouldn't hire Jewish people. He was from Lithuania. And so he opened a saloon, which he hated the business. But he, in those days, what I learned was that if you told a beer company you would only sell their beer, they would finance it. And my dad repeatedly told me how much he hated that, but apparently he took good care of people, put their wallet in the safe and but saved his money. And I think there was some relative that told a few of our family people that the jewelry business was a nice business. And in 1915, he opened up a very small store on Minnesota Avenue in Kansas City, Kansas.
Here in Kansas City, you grew up and felt somewhat sheltered from that, but at the same time in our city, a number of the country clubs were not open to Jewish people being members. You couldn't, there were certain neighborhoods and communities, Leawood at the time, would not allow Jewish people to buy homes in Leawood. I mean, there was a lot of things in the 1940s, 1950s, really going back before that, that excluded Jewish people from a lot of places in the city. But that wasn't something you really...
Let me tell you the real mystery. Shows you my dad was a great salesman. So J.C. Nichols certainly had those in the deeds. You couldn't sell to a black person. It wasn't in our deed that we bought an old home about Jewish people. Of course, the Crows It
Yeah.
was very clear. But anyway,
Well, hold on a moment. So
my dad.
the Crows were one of the development families in Kansas City, along with J.C. Nichols, and they had very exclusive.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
my dad, through salesmanship, politics, so he leases a best corner in the country club plaza and takes me with him to meet Mr. Nichols. And I learned what chain smoking was. That means you light your cigarette from the last one you were smoking.
Ah, okay.
And unfortunately, it did get him.
Yeah.
But so there's that story on Nichols. But
Yep. Yeah. So let's go back to the business then. As you were raised watching this business grow, your grandfather started one business, very small, in Kansas City, Kansas.
It's very interesting. My grandfather had a stroke soon after he opened. My dad, believe it or not, at 15 years old, took over and loved it.
Wow.
And was he good at it? And his brother partnered with him for a while, and then they split up. But
so your dad started running the business at 15. That is amazing.
And he loved the advertising and promotion.
Yeah.
I think more even than the diamonds.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you become involved in the company? When did you get your start?
When we were very, very young, my dad's philosophy was that, you don't want to be rich kids. So we were always working from being very, very young. And I remember we'd come home for Christmas vacation, and that was a fabulous part of the year. And we would work, and some people would criticize my mother that we had to work or something. Well, it was fun. We loved it. It was very, very wholesome and good guidance.
Yeah. So your dad was determined for you not to be spoiled rich kids. You had to work from the time you were a kid in school.
Yeah, he was really very wise on that.
Yeah. Yes.
And my mother, of course, blessed it. But what's really strange is unbelievable. So who has a jewelry store in Kansas City, Missouri? My mother's father, the Feld Jewelry Company.
No kidding.
Can you imagine?
So your dad's company and your mom's company parents were competing with each other.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that is amazing.
So after college, you went to work for Helzberg's.
Right.
And your role then was what?
Well, what I was doing. Well, I started buying, and my dad did something very, very smart, which he hadn't done. He said, I want you to go to New York. I want you to go in these factories. I want you to learn, of course, also go to a diamond place and learn. And frankly, that was really smart. And we were able to really learn about processes and increase the quality of the merchandise. In fact, I had a wonderful letter from a man who, I guess he did sizing of our rings in Des Moines, and he wrote me and said he'd seen such a wonderful increase in the quality. Okay. So that was a great experience and very worthwhile.
Yeah, that's terrific. So when did you become CEO of the company? Was that 1963?
Well, I was 29, so I was born in 33, so that would be
1962. Okay, so around 1962, you were 29. You became CEO of a company that had 15 stores, and you led it from 15 stores to what, 145 or 150?
Yeah, and we went through some not good times on the way. We went off the track. We had seen a competitor who operated departments in discount stores. And unfortunately, we went that way. And then, like most businesses, we certainly had our ups and downs. And one of my favorite stories is a down story and an up story. So what was a down? Well, my brother and I, we were not doing well at all. And we went to the First National Bank, and we my dad's attorney, Arthur Magg, was on the board, and so we always did business there. And we went there, and they said, no, we're not going to give you this money. There was certain, one of their board members that vetoed it. Well, of course, that was quite frightening.
Sure.
But with our luck, my dad had a forever relationship with Morris Freudenthal, Kansas City, Kansas. So we go over there when we leave the First National Bank. We immediately drive over there, shaking in our boots. And we walk in, and I think it was Morris Jr. What do you want? It took about 60 seconds. So that was a incredible downer and upper.
Sure. And so don't take no for an answer. It's part of what I'm hearing, that you keep
And as
keep
you
trying.
know, we have a mentoring, and I say to everybody, have 2 banks.
Yeah.
Something's going to change.
Yeah.
Your officer, your relation, something. Just have that insurance.
Yeah. I think sometimes you just said something important, with several things, but sometimes people look at a successful business person like you and say, well, they've just it's just gone well, everything's gone great in their lives, everything's terrific. But you've noted that you've had a number of downtimes too.
Oh, and every business has those struggles. I don't know any without it.
Yeah.
Organization, charitable
Yeah.
businesses, you always hit those places.
Which is true in life as well, right? For all of us individually, it's not just everything's going to be rosy. We're all going to have tough times, difficult times.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you survived those tough times. You didn't give up in the middle of them. And this is one of the things I teach on leadership is, the leaders who make a difference don't give up. They're perseverant. They just keep going. Is that your experience?
Yeah, well, I never even thought of giving up.
Yeah.
There were people wanting to buy the company and this and that, but it just never occurred to me. And in those days, and it's a different world today, you never thought of selling the company. I mean, that it was done by some other people along the way, but it just never occurred.
Right. So as the company grew, I'd be curious, what are 2 or 3 of the most important leadership principles that you think everybody should know, or at least were pivotal in Helzberg's expansion and success? What are the key leadership principles?
I always laugh when they say, what's the secret? There's no secret. I would say, love your people.
Yeah.
And just treat them as you would your family or anybody else. So to me, that of course, that was rewarding for me.
Yeah.
But I would say, I like to say that, I used to, for years, I would give this speech when a news store, who's number one? And of course, they'd say the customer. And after quite a few years, I said, wait a minute, you know what? You're number one. Everything comes from you.
Yeah.
It's not the customer. It's the people serving the customer.
Yeah.
And it's even the people serving the people in the stores from the office.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the precious and priceless way to, enjoyable way to go.
I think what you said there is just so important. So it's not the customer who's number one. They're very, very important. Clearly, they're why you exist, but your employees being number one, that taking care of them. And then it seems like to me that you modeled for your employees how they were to treat their customers. Right? You cared for them and you showed concern for them, which in turn would be passed on. That was part of the DNA of Helzberg's, right?
I believe so. Yes.
What are there any other leadership principles that have been important to you that you pass on at Hemp or in other places?
Well, I would say keeping a focus. There's so many ways. You sit in board meetings of some of these organizations, and they're way off the subject. And so we have a slogan on the wall in our mentoring program. Does it help mentees? So does what you're doing further the focus, the goal of the company? Or are you going in too many directions?
Yeah.
And it's very easy to do and tempting and fun.
Yeah. That's right. I think about Apple Computer and Steve Jobs, who really was laser focused on doing a few things well, not doing 1,000 things with mediocrity. And it seems like that's what you all did as well.
Yeah, and I think that's reasonably common about a lot of the people you read about.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about these buttons. So this button, and you all have you've been distributing these, this was your idea, and you actually were gracious at Helzberg's to give Church of the Resurrection about 5,000 of these, and I preached a sermon about this 2 or 3 years ago, and this idea of I am loved. This was your brainchild, so talk about where this came from.
Well, I'll tell you where it came from. I always loved advertising. It's the only other thing I ever thought I might go into. So one night I was home and I drew up this ad with these stick figures, and it said, give her a button or a button free at Helzberg's or a diamond $50,000 to $5,000, but tell her she's loved.
Yeah.
I immediately threw this in the wastebasket and fortunately pulled it out. And then I took it into our office, and we had a wonderful artist with us forever named Claude Burke. And of course, I really snuck it in. I didn't want to hardly show it to anybody. And I showed it to Mr. Burke, and he said, yeah, I really like that. Then I went to my brother, and he said, oh, we got to do this in some markets. Then I went to my dad, and he said, I don't like it. It'll fill the stores with hippies. But my dad always said, I believe in youth. So, of course, we did it. And we just had a incredible copywriter and Mr. Burke, and these ads were really good. And it really was an incredible experience. At one school even made a rule you couldn't wear that at school. So we ran the ad and said, follow the rules, but put it on after. But I don't know if you were here but it just exploded.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, it was more than anybody could ask.
It really was amazing. And ultimately, you've given away over 18 million of these buttons.
Oh, I'm sure they're way over
that.
50 million.
Oh, is it 50 million now? That was an old
it's
article I
probably
saw.
way beyond
I'm
that.
sure I could. I believe that.
Yeah, it's
and around the world. I mean, people, military personnel who've received these in the mail from their loved ones back home. It's the beauty of that, I think. And we talked about this by phone not long ago. And you said to me, everybody wants to be loved. I mean, the button basically captures that idea. Everybody wants to be loved. We want to know that we're loved. And I think somewhere along the way I heard when you asked Shirley to marry you, one of the feelings you had was, I am loved. She said, yes, I am loved. And that played some role in this too, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We all want to know that we're loved. And I love the marketing of this, that you were saying, look, even if you can't afford a diamond, you can give her a button and we'll give it to you. So come on into our store. You can have a button for free. You don't have to buy anything. And you can tell her that you love her. Now, if you want to buy a diamond, we've got them available here for you. But you associated your stores with a way of telling people that they are loved. And you told people you don't have to buy anything in order to say that. Yeah, I thought that was brilliant.
It was, I don't understand it exactly. I can't say it's an accident, but anyway, it happened. And the most amazing thing, which people said would be impossible, we got the federal trademark on I Am Loved.
That is amazing. They're all registered trademarks you see on the buttons.
See, you can't do that, but it happened.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so the story of how you sold the company. I find this is a fascinating story too. So why don't you tell just a word about that?
Well, I had bought 2 or 3 shares of Berkshire Hathaway. I don't know how I'd known about it. And I went to the annual meetings, which were fabulous and are fabulous, and heard him talk, which was...
This was Warren Buffett.
People person.
Yeah.
Totally, and not ego, showing pictures of the head of each company and praising them. Not praising himself or Charlie Munger at all. And so I had this, when the time came, and I thought, this has outgrown me. And my sons were very young. And so I'm standing a few weeks after this annual meeting on the corner of, by the Pierre Hotel. Anyway, Fifth Avenue, and I hear a lady say, Warren Buffett. And I look, and there's a lady just having a brief conversation. And after I went up to him and I said, we fit the criteria that the companies you want to buy. And he said, well, we're in that business, and send me the information. And incredible how sometimes the dumb things so it was close to Christmas. I didn't want to upset everybody. So I didn't. Finally in January, I didn't let anybody in the company know. I snuck out and mailed all the financials to him. And of course, it all worked out. And the other unusual thing about it was I introduced him to another very good company in our industry. And what I heard from their lawyer was that when these buyouts happen, they look for 7, I'll call them gotchas, and none of them were in Buffett's thing.
In other words, it was all really above board integrity. It was
very simple.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, don't you want a non-compete? He said, you'll never do anything to hurt this company. So he got a lifetime deal.
Yeah.
And then it was, as they say, too good to be true.
Yeah. That's really fantastic. That's great. And so the company's still around, has over 200 stores now across the country. And and I have to tell you, so when my wife and I got married, it was a week after high school graduation, and we'd grown up here in Kansas City. And I bought her a ring from a jewelry store called J.C. Sloan. I bought a $300 diamond ring for her. That's all I could afford. I was a senior in high school. But 10 years after we got married, I finally could afford to buy her a little nicer ring. And I went to Helzberg's and ended up buying her, her kind of her real wedding ring, at that point. So,
my belief is that it's a perfect business. You're looking at beauty.
Yeah.
You're waiting on happy people and love.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than saying you need a new roof. Here's what it's going to cost.
Yes.
It's such a happy business.
Sure. And these are important life moments for people: birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, things like that.
And the beauty of the merchandise really, it can get to you almost.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to shift gears. You and Shirley have been very involved in philanthropy in Kansas City. You've done a lot of things. You started the University Academy, which is a school that is a charter school. It has 1,100 students.
We did not start out perfectly by somewhat of a long shot. We went some difficult times. And then what happened? The right person came in, Tony Klein, and he was there 7 years. It became a blue ribbon school, which is tops. And so that's been a real joy. And what we did, we made a decision. My son gave me credit for this. I said, we don't want to get them into college. We want to get them out of college. So we started another organization, which is called the University Academy Foundation, which works with them while they're in college. But also, my son was a great world traveler, and he, in a very small way, started sending a few of our kids to overseas trips with these good organizations. Mm-hmm. And he said, Dad, I think there's a correlation between college graduation and this foreign travel. And of course, it proved right. And it's a very major program with our school. We send these kids all over the world.
Yeah.
And the statistics prove he was right.
And these kids who are at University Academy, my sense is that a large number of them, were it not for University Academy, may not have made it to college, may not have gone on to college.
No, they're almost invariably the first person in their family. They're underprivileged kids. And they write wonderful, I'll send you some of the stories, stories about their travels. And then we get some of the parents will tell us what they've seen when they got home.
Yeah.
So that's been...
That's terrific. The last time I checked, 100% of the kids who graduated made it to college, and 50% were in a top 150 university in the country. I mean, that's a pretty amazing statistic for what's happened as a result of this investment of your time and resources to start this academy.
Well, what's happened? Well, we see a lot of professionals, and we have one young lady broke into Harvard and into Stanford, and it's a really incredible story. This young lady that went to Harvard, then I went to Stanford for a master's. What's she doing? She's teaching at our school.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
So that's really give back.
Yeah.
But
and this is just one example. What you did at University Academy, there's so many other things that you all have done to invest in the community, to invest in people. So I want to ask you about that. This sense of giving back. How important is it for people to give back?
Well, it's frankly, people thank me, and I say, I get more out of it than you do. But I love what John Templeton said. He said, if you're giving when you're living, you're knowing where it's going. So that's part of our philosophy.
Yeah.
So
in Judaism, there is an idea, at least in certain segments of Judaism, called tikkun olam, which is to repair or heal the earth, or to heal the world. And I know Shirley has used that phrase before. Is that something you all talk about, this idea that part of what we're meant to do is to heal the world?
Yeah, repair the world, that's exactly. And I think that's what you're trying to do. We're trying to do. It's going to take a lot of doing.
Yeah, that's right. That is the, that's our aim. I really love that phrase within Judaism, because that is so much a part of what we're trying to do at Church of the Resurrection and within the Christian faith as well. Is we talk about the kingdom of God, the rule of God, or the reign of God, and what would the world look like if it looked the way God wanted it to look, and where does it not look that way, and how do we heal that? And part of that has to do with making sure kids get a good education. Part of it has to do with addressing racism. Part of it has to do with helping people unleash their potential to do good things in the world. I mean, there's just so many ways in which it's addressing poverty and addressing food insecurity and all those things that you all are also a part of supporting.
And it gives me a lot of joy. Those things, they're not for the charity, they're for me.
Yeah.
The way I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this phrase in the Gospel of Luke. It says, to whom much is given, much more is expected. And this idea that when you have been successful and you've seen, things have gone well for you, then there's the expectation that you're going to do something to make a difference. Your question you asked your sons was, okay, we're making money. Now, what are we going to do with it? It wasn't about how do we buy more stuff for ourselves? How do we just enrich ourselves? It's how do we give back? Barnett, I want to begin to wrap this up, but I want to ask, as you look over your life, what are some of the things, what are some of the life lessons that you've learned? What are the things that are, as you look back and go, okay, this is what really matters in life. This is how you face life when it's hard. What would you say? What life lessons have you learned over the years?
Well, I would just say it really all comes down to loving other people and appreciating them and listening to them and not trying to be the expert or more knowledgeable than anybody else, and just handling things that way.
That's good. That's good advice. What's the legacy that you would leave behind? What would you want people to say about you? Well, first of all, you probably don't care what people are going to say about you after you're gone. But
No.
But if you thought, okay, here's what I hope I would be remembered for, what would that be?
Well, I hope warmth, friendship.
That's good. That's really good. Thank you so much for taking the time to
Thank
be with
you.
me today, and appreciate all you do to encourage and foster other leaders in the community. That's one more thing that you do is the Helzberg Entrepreneurial Mentoring Program, HEMP, is all about, again, raising up other leaders. So it's you've brought together leaders for decades now. I don't know, how long have you?
It's 30 years old.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
That's and we've had some wonderful leaders and passionate contributors in every possible way.
Yeah.
So
Which points to, once more, as a leader, you your job is probably to raise up new leaders, to raise up more leaders, and you've done a great job of that too.
Well, these people are amazing, and it's a wonderful group of people. It really is. And actually, we have a book about it, and I'll send you one.
Good. I look forward to seeing that. Okay, I did have one more question I want to ask. You're Jewish, but tell me, what role has your faith played in your life? What role has your faith played in your life? Your faith in God, your Judaism, what role does that
Well, it certainly had a place. I read too much and look at too much of history and see what the things have happened through history. And I do wonder, as almost anybody does, why?
Yeah.
So that some of that, as you know, still goes on. And
the problem of suffering and evil, and how do we make sense of a good and loving God in a world where there's suffering?
Yeah, and I just saw on TV, Denmark owned the U.S. Islands, whatever they're called, in the Caribbean, and the number of slaves they brought there, and the treating, and no different from our country.
Right.
So
when you see, so what you're pointing to, I think, is the fact that often even people who claim to be religious have done very irreligious things, have done really bad things sometimes even in the name of religion. Slavery, anti-Semitism. There's an awful lot that's happened in the world that was committed by people who claimed faith.
Exactly.
And then they did horrible things.
Very true.
Yeah.
My dad kind of warned me about those people. But they're very good from the mouth out, as they say.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah. I think that's, one of the things we talk about that at Resurrection as well, both the problem of suffering, but also to make sure that we're trying to live that gospel we believe, because there's a whole lot of folks who don't. And then it ends up, it causes pain in the name of religion, or it causes people to turn away from any idea of a good and loving God. And part of what I loved about your buttons is it captures something essential about Judaism and Christianity both, and that is that there is one who loves us, in addition to us loving each other, that there is a God who loves, and that when we think about love is it's an attribute of God. And so we have this ideal of what that's supposed to look like, and then sometimes we don't live up to it. And anyway, I think that's a good word that you've shared as well.
And when we don't, and sometimes I don't, and it's kind of upsetting. You think, where'd that come from?
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
So
yeah, that's right. And that's true for all of us. We all need grace. We all fall short of that ideal that we're meant to live up to. But at least we know what it is that we're supposed to. And it's in both of our scriptures. We're to love God and we're to love our neighbor. And if we can learn to love our neighbor well, the world goes better, doesn't it?
It just pays off for everybody.
It does.
Every direction.
Yeah. Barnett, thank you so much for the time today. It means a lot to me, and I know our people are going to enjoy seeing this interview.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for joining me for this episode of Making Sense of Faith, and I hope you'll join me again next week. And I'd like to encourage you, if you haven't studied the Helzberg story, take the time to study it. And I don't know if they're still giving away the buttons or not.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
get your free button.
Stop by Helzberg Jewelers and pick up a free button. I am loved. Oh, there it is. I am loved, and share it with somebody else. God bless you and have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to Making Sense of Faith with Adam Hamilton. Do you know someone wrestling with life's biggest questions? Share this episode with them, because the more people willing to embrace the hard questions, the better. Do you want to go deeper? You can visit makingsenseoffaith.com to find the show notes and additional resources. That's also where you can sign up to get the notes and resources delivered straight to your inbox. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe and leave us a rating in your podcast player. That'll make sure that you get the latest episodes and help others find the podcast. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell to catch future episodes and videos there. Until next time, remember that your questions matter. Doubts are normal, and making sense of faith is a lifelong journey. We'll see you on the next episode of Making Sense of Faith.